So John, if you could let Commissioner Good in
Yes.
once we start.
Yeah, she is already in the Zoom.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you.
She needs to turn on her microphone or her camera.
Great. And if any Commissioner Dykstra, Fosbury, or Perazzo end up, if you could let them in too. Thank you so much.
All right, we're ready to begin.
Great. I'm going to call to order this joint work session with Lacey City Council and the Parks Cultural and Recreational Board. Before we get started, what you'll see before you is an amended agenda. When I took a look at the agenda, I think as most of this council knows, I've been out of the country for the past 12 years. And when I took a look at the agenda, I realized that we were going to need some more time to go into executive session this evening. And so I got a quick update by GMP, which will be joining us in a little bit, and asked them how much time we needed and some overview, and quickly realized we needed some more time than getting started, at 8 o'clock, which was on the original agenda. So I worked with Rick. We pared this down. I apologize to the Parks Cultural and Recreation Board and our other presenters, but we're going to try to get started into our executive session as close to 7 o'clock as possible. And before we go in, Dave's just going to give us just a quick reminder of what we can and cannot discuss in executive session, just so we're all aware of that. But with that, can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Then the motion's approved. We have approved amended agenda. And let's real quick go around the room and do some introductions. You want to get started?
Hi, I'm Robin Vasquez, Lacey City Council.
Lenny Greenstein, council.
Aaron Wheeler, Lacey Park Council Member.
Malcolm Miller, Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, Jen Burbidge, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation for the city.
Wendy Goodwin, Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Commissioner.
All right. How about Mike? You get started, Mike?
Gary
Mike.
Larson, Parks Commissioner.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think the mayor wanted us to start us.
Yeah, go ahead.
Michael
Mike.
Stedman, council.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry.
Carolyn Cox, Council. Sorry, I confused you.
Ed Kunkel, Council.
Rick Walk, interim city manager.
And then on with us today online. Go ahead, Camber.
Camber Good, Park Commissioner.
And then I wanted to introduce staff and also a guest that we have tonight. So we have Sue Faylash. She's our Recreation Manager for Parks, Culture, and Recreation. And then we have Jeff Bowe. He is with Experience Olympia and Beyond Sports Commission, and he'll be presenting after the Parks Board goes.
It's good to see Keith over there from our Lacey Veteran Services Hub.
And Keith.
And I'm Andy Ryder, the Mayor of Lacey. And with that, let's just go straight into our Parks, Culture, and Recreation update, our 2022 accomplishments. Jen.
Great. Thank you so much. Just super appreciate the Parks Board and the City Council spending this time together tonight. I really want to thank the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Board for their dedication and support. They're totally awesome to work with. And, we have a lot of fun. We get a lot done for the community, and they are just amazing. Thank you for your volunteerism to the board. Super appreciate that. I'm actually just going to hand things right over to our past chair, Aaron Wheeler. He's going to get us started to talk about the accomplishments, and then we'll pass it over to Chair Goodwin for the 2023 work plan.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, esteemed council members and citizens of Lacey. So I'll be covering the 2022 accomplishments. And so a huge accomplishment was getting the Greg Cuyo Park Phase 1A project to 30% design before the end of the year. And part of this process was meeting with the public to determine the theme for the playground. And here's a rendering of the main area of the park that is scheduled to be open by summer of 2024. And then going back in time for a brief reminder, the Greg Cuyo Park and Greenways Master Plan was started at the very end of 2020, and it was finished in early 2022, February to be exact. And shortly thereafter, City Council approved moving forward with Phase 1A to get the park open to the public. And then in 2022, Energize Lacey Community Outreach was launched in preparation for the 2023 Parks, Culture, and Recreation Comprehensive Plan update. And as a reminder, the year prior to 2021 was the Lacey Cares Outreach, where the intent was to identify areas where the public would benefit from additional information and well as topics where the city might benefit from clarifying public priorities and preferences. The ultimate goal was to build a shared vision for the future of culture and recreation assets and opportunities. In 2022, the Energize Lacey Outreach was meant to confirm public priorities and gain additional insight. And as you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, we had 685 responses between in-person engagements and online surveys.
And before I switch the slide, I just want to point out, you might see Chair Goodwin in a few of the pictures on the screen.
Very
I
involved.
love it.
So, which brings us up to the next accomplishment, kicking off the Parks, Culture, and Recreation 2023 Comprehensive Plan Update in late 2022. This project is continuing to be worked on, of course, into the current year. Another accomplishment was kicking off discussions about the Young Child and Family Center of Lacey feasibility with community partners, North Thurston Public Schools, Class of '97, and the YMCA. The discussion, of course, are continuing into 2023. And the last accomplishment I'll highlight is the addition of the Long Lake Park adjacent property, which has been a long-term goal of the city. And thanks to the City Council for authorizing the purchase and adding 1.8 acres site to the Lacey Park system. So that's awesome. And as for grants and donations, they are listed here on the screen. $5,000 from the Park Foundation of Thurston County to support youth scholarship, $5,000 in the form of 2 permanent rugby goals on field number 4 at the RAC, $39,715 from the North Thurston Public Schools for the Playground Pals free part day camp program in conjunction with the free summer lunch programs, and $68,100 from SEEK, which the acronym stands for Safe Environment for Every Kid. Those were OSPI funds for our summer day camp programs made possible by the partnership between AWC and the Washington Recreation and Park Association. Lacey Parks also received a 20-acre donation from a developer adjacent to the Mullen Road habitat, doubling the size of that habitat. And the developer was able to suffice Thurston County's development requirements by donating to the city of Lacey. Some other noteworthy achievements for 2022 are the Lacey Depot and Playground grand opening on May 25th, 2022, in conjunction with the Historical Commission and Lacey Rotary, and acknowledgement of the installation of Jackson Goose Pond historic marker along the Karen Fraser Woodland Trail, again, in conjunction with the Historical Commission. And then we also wanted to take a few moments to honor 2 park board commissioners who have recently passed. We all know Ken Balsley, who served on the park board for 6.5 years from 2015 to 2020, and Dave Weber, who served for 1 year in 2022. For each of us who knew these 2 gentlemen, we know how much that they contributed to the community, and they will be sorely missed. And I just know personally it was an honor to work with both of them, and glad to know that their memories will be carried on through this city. And now I would like to turn the presentation over to the Parks Board 2023 Chair, Wendy Goodwin, who you saw is very active in every community with Lacey Parks, and just is an inspiration to the parks and to the city as well. So thank you, Wendy.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Wheeler. I appreciate that. Mayor Ryder, Deputy Mayor Miller, and council members, thank you for the opportunity to present the 2023 Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Work Plan. It has been a busy and exciting start to 2023. The full work plan is provided in your packet. There are many ongoing agenda items, such as construction projects, special projects, park rules, and planning details on the work plan. And tonight, the significant items will be highlighted. As Commissioner Wheeler mentioned, we are working on the 6-year update to the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Comprehensive Plan. It will come before the City Council later this year. The Greg Cuyo Park 1A phase is a significant project which should reach 100% design completion and get out to add by the end of this year, keeping us on track for opening the park to the public in 2024. The Woodland Creek Park Bridge replacement is on the work plan for this year as well. This 40-plus-year-old homemade bridge has stood the test of time, as you can see the photo on the left, but it is in dire need of replacement. And the example of what we're looking to do for the completed bridge would be on your right there. So the next one, the board has already begun reviewing the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Scholarship Policy and Program Analysis to see if updates are needed in order to increase applicants and awards by increasing advertising efforts for the program and better open access for our youth who might be experiencing homelessness. The draft updates will go before the Commission on Equity next week and then back to Lacey Parks, Culture, and Recreation Board for further review. Another project on the Parks Work Plan is pursuing partnerships with Intercity Transit for their walk and roll program. The new location at 2955 Martin Way in Olympia brings them closer to the Lacey community members and showcases the amazing work they do. The walk and roll program members are interested in partnering with the City of Lacey for a biking event at Wonderwood Park, Rack, or Woodland Creek. A. Purry and Carrie Wilson are coming up with information we would need to host an event and discussions on how the Lacey Parks, Culture, and Recreation Board can support them. Next slide. A few more projects to highlight are the Wildlife Information Project. This is an effort by the Parks Board led by Chair Goodwin and Vice Chair Commissioner Good to work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife representatives and Lacey Parks maintenance staff to identify key wildlife that exist in Lacey's parks. We would like to use scannable QR codes for park visitors and community members to access information regarding the wildlife and importance of habitat conservation in their areas. Our first targeted Lois Habitat Reserve, Wanchers Community Park, Wonderwood Park, and the Greg Cuyo Park with our processing phasing. And our next touring date is slated for sometime in May due to seasonal changes. Another is the sponsorship and naming rights policy update. We would like to thank Commission on Equity for their help and support in working together to update this policy. We held 2 joint meetings, November 14th, 2022 and January 25th, 2023, and thank the City Council for the support in getting the update finalized recently. The Parks Board is looking forward to another great year, and we are asking for approval of the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Board 2022 accomplishments and the 2023 work plan. We are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Councilmember?
My 9-year-old daughter wants to know if we're going to add more swings to Wonderwood Park. I saw that there was improvements planned for Wonderwood Park. So.
The improvements for the trail and the court upgrades. We don't currently have plans for swings, but we will definitely note the request. Thank you.
Do you want motions for both at the same time?
We will just need a motion to accept the 2023 work plan. But before we do that, I'm gonna ask a quick question. Jen knows and Rick knows about earlier in this month, I took a tour of the last standing resort building that's left here in Thurston County and Lacey. And obviously that the resorts in our community is the reason why we're around this table right now, right? And how we became a city, why Woodland first was organized and then Lacey became a city. There's only one building left standing, and that's across from the Lacey Community Center. I took a tour of it and it's in really bad shape. It's in really bad shape. And the reason why I took a tour is because there's been some interest from the private side of maybe rehabbing, find a way to rehab that building so it can be accessible to the community and also as a public-private partnership, possibly. This is very, very early. Go ahead.
What's the approximate square foot of that building?
I have, so you're talking about the McKinney House?
Yeah.
So I have a document that has that in it that I can pull up here. But what I wanted to tell you is that it's actually on the Historical Commission's work plan.
Okay.
So we had their joint work session February
It's
23rd.
it's interesting because it's on park property,
Yeah.
but it's a historic building. And my worry is if we went another year and didn't have this conversation, we may lose that building. And it would be heartbreaking if we lost the building.
Potentially be like a meeting hall, like a.
There, I think is a lot of opportunities there. I think the first step, we had the opportunity to invest some money back into it 8 years ago to make it weatherproof and ready for something to happen. We didn't take that opportunity. Here we are 8 years, maybe a decade later. And we should have made those investments. And now it's going to be, I believe, considerably more expensive to save it, but I believe we should. I think there are lots of really cool opportunities there. I don't want to go into what that may be because it's a little too soon to discuss that. What we need to decide as a council is if we're going to save the building, how much of a priority is and what it's going to cost. And so.
Yeah, so so the commission had added to, the Historical Commission added, review and start a plan for what might be possible for the McKinney House.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
my only question.
Yeah.
With that, yes, I need a motion to adopt the 2023 work plan.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I think we should make the building a priority. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for that. I'm glad it's on the work plan for the SOAR commission.
I think the number of accomplishments on this list is to your credit,
Mhm.
Aram and Wendy and everyone who's served on the Parks Board. You're getting a lot done and that's exciting.
And on top of all that, just recently, I think this council, has been notified that we are on the list for the capital budget for the first phase of Great Kuya Park, which is really exciting. I think it really tells you there's really a lot of great projects out there, and the fact that this one has been championed really tells you how special this property is going to be. And it's really a testament to the Parks Culture and Recreation Board for all the work you've put in, working with the community, seeing that vision. And here we are, and this council's 100% supportive, and we want to get it built as soon as possible. If we could build all tomorrow, we'd love to do it, but obviously there's a process here. So any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded to adopt the 2023 work plan. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Then that motion unanimously carries.
Thank you so much. And next we have Sue Falash and Jeff Bowe to give us an update on the Thurston County Sports Commission and the RAC. So I'll give you the pointer. Should be able to still make sure.
During the transition, I would say the picture of the kids doing their swimming lessons. Sue was, and our kids are in those swim programs, and just wonderful that it continues, and every family should have the opportunity to learn how to swim. And so.
Sounds like it. Okay. I'll have to lean over just a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Lacey City Council. Thank you, Parks, Culture and Recreation Board, for having me speak today. It's always an honor to be here and update you on one of my favorite things, which is sports tourism in Thurston County. My name is Jeff Bowe. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Development with Experience Olympia and beyond. So good to see all of you in person. I know it's been a couple of years now since we've been able to do this. So with that, I want to lead right into this. I know we're short on time. Of course, no presentation is complete without a discussion as to what a sports commission is. So just a quick review on that. Our sports commission is an offshoot of the Visitor and Convention Bureau. Our goal is to get visitors from outside of the county to come into Thurston County and spend money in our hotels, our restaurants, our attractions, our shops. What the Sports Commission does specifically is we target sports event organizers. So those are the group leaders that are in charge of running these tournaments and these events that attract those visitors, spectators, athletes into town. So that's what we do. And specifically, we're the direct sales component of that. So have a handout, since we get to meet in person, for everybody here tonight to show you some of the collateral that we use when we reach out to sports event organizers. And it in great detail talks about what we can do as a sports commission if you are a sports event organizer, talks about some of the services that we offer, where some of our fields are, and some of our other points of interest. So take a look at that when you get a chance, and I'm happy
And
to.
one thing real quick
Yeah.
is, along with the Visitor Bureau, we send one of our staff, Sean, they go off every year. They've done it. One's the teams and one is what's the other?
It's the Sports ETA, which
Sports
is the
ETA.
Association of Sports
So
Commissions.
they go off, and these are basically their conferences where people are there to look for venues where we're trying to sell what we have in this Thurston County community and bring in different tournaments. With that, we brought in some flag football, we brought in Quibbage, some of the different events that we wouldn't normally see. And so they do that every year, trying to bring in some different tournaments within it. And that is one of the areas that we collaborate quite a bit with.
Thank you for that, Sue. I think that's an important point. Is we know the regional athletic complex is great at attracting baseball and softball, but we want to make sure that all of the other fields get use as well, and particularly events that happen off season. So that's another important point. We're really proud that our sports commission is community facing. So we've made a great effort to make sure that community members are involved in our decisions. We have a standing sports commission advisory committee that is made up of community members. I won't go through that list, but you can see that it is made up of members representing each municipality and other sports enthusiasts from around the county. And we get together, we talk about different events that might make sense in Thurston County, how to go about getting those events here, and then engaging the business community that could benefit from sports tourism. I want to talk a little bit about funding. And as I said earlier, the Sports Commission is an offshoot of the Visitor and Convention Bureau. Our budget in 2022 was a little over 1.3 million. Lacey's investment in that was the $100,000 award from the lodging tax funds. And that money goes directly to destination marketing and sports tourism. Typically about 25 to 30% of that 100,000 goes directly to sports marketing, the trade shows that Sue mentioned, the collateral that you see here. And then some of that goes also to sponsorships and rights fees for qualified events. And Lacey's contribution to that was 8%, according to that chart.
This is just kind of a little bit that last show.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So this is the services that we offer, and it's outlined in your handout. But it's really important to note that as we go out and talk to these sports event organizers, we want them to know what we can do for them. The most important thing is putting together bid presentations. So, for example, if we want to attract a large rugby tournament, we want to be able to create a reason for them to come do that. There has to be enough hotels. There has to be enough fields. There has to be local support from different clubs and sports influencers. Those are the things that these national organizations look at when they're looking to place their events. So we make sure that that information gets out there. We'll prepare the bid presentations. We'll offer financial support where that makes sense. And the most important thing, the sales piece, is inviting these planners to come to Thurston County, putting them up in a hotel if we need to, and showing them around the county, showing them why their event can be successful here. And then a number of other things, just securing those hotel partners. On-site hospitality services is real low-hanging fruit that we can do. We can set up a tent, provide water, snacks for volunteers, coaches, things of that nature. Marketing, promotions. The Washington State Senior Games is an example of where we're actually marketing an event to our local community because they can come in and they can participate in it. Vendor, supplier referrals. Somebody needs t-shirts printed. We know where they can do that here in Thurston County. Again, it's them spending money on our business community. Permitting assistance. And then maybe the most important thing is visitor information, making sure that they know when they're here, the families, the coaches, the spectators, the athletes, where they can eat and what they can do, perhaps if they have a day off or they're not actually playing in the tournament. So really quickly, I'm going to, again, I know we're crunched for time, but this is a really important point. The difference between the Sports Commission and the Regional Athletic Complex, never meant to be adversarial, as Sue mentioned. In effect, it really should be a synergy. The things that are happening at the Regional Athletic Complex are supported by the things that the Sports Commission does. How does that happen? Just a real quick analogy. If you imagine that you're a sports event, and you're a seed that needs to be planted at some facility, your sports event organizer is your gardener, and that gardener is going to determine where to plant that seed. Sometimes if the sports event organizer knows where they want to place that event, say they know about the regional athletic complex, maybe they've had an event there before, they're going to call that facility directly. I'm not even going to hear about it, and that's okay. That just means that there's a relationship there already, and that's what we want. Sometimes the sports event organizer won't know where to call, and in that case, they know that the industry, the industry recognized entity for that would be a sports commission. And so those are the people that we meet at the trade shows, that we meet on sales calls that don't necessarily know where to go. So we're working in conjunction with the city of Lacey and with the regional athletic complex to make sure that that's a positive booking experience.
And when we're looking at those, it's not always necessarily just the rack. And there's a lot of these tournaments we brought in, like one of the golf tournaments that uses the golf courses in the community, or we have things out at Rainier Vista. I think it's really important to know that they're really pushing the entire community, not just one facility. It's what we can put everywhere.
Right. That's another important point. I prepared this slide just to talk a little bit about the results that we achieved in 2022. It's important to note that there was 15 total events booked in Thurston County. I've listed here the 12 that are in Lacey. So Lacey still continues to be the hub for sports tourism. I think that's a really important point. You've got the facilities here. I won't list all of these. I'm going to talk about a couple of them in just a minute. But I think the important point here is that we tracked 12 events and we calculated the economic impact of those events. In other words, the monies that are spent in hotels, restaurants, stores, attractions, 5.8 million, a little over 5.8 million. And this is not a calculation that we do internally. This is an industry recognized calculator that we pay for. So it's an industry recognized number that we're using. And we use the same calculation for the regional athletic complex that I'll get to here in just a minute. The important point is the year over year. And this is what I really want to drive home to this group. If you look at the increase in what I reported last year on Zoom, for events booked, we had 6. This year we had 12. That's a 50% increase. Economic impact, it was 937. This year we tracked the 5.8 million. So that's a 528% increase. A lot of reasons for that. I think more people are participating in sports events. More people are booking sports events. It's getting harder and harder to find availability at our facilities. But also 2021, as you recall, we couldn't actually book events for the first quarter. So in 2022, we have an additional quarter of tracking. So going back to that investment we talked about earlier, the $100,000 comes from the Lacey lodging tax funds. I mentioned 20 to 30% of that goes to sports tourism. So that's the number I used, 20%, $20,000. Compare that to the 5.8 million in economic impact. That's a 295-to-1 return on investment. So every dollar that we dedicate from the lodging tax to sports tourism results in $295 spent in our community. I think that's a pretty strong indicator by any measurement. So looking at the regional athletic complex, we have for the last couple of years now done an economic impact report specifically for the regional athletic complex. So these are events where the event organizer has called the regional athletic complex directly. So we tracked 48 events, and this is based on the tracking that Sue and her team does with zip codes. That's how we get to this number. 48 events for a total of almost 16 million in economic impact brought in by the regional athletic complex, and Rainier Vista as well is included in this. Yeah.
Does that 48 include this total?
There's a few of the events that are a part of that 48. There's, I think, probably 6 of the 12 are there, but there's also ones at Rainier Vista.
Yeah.
And some other locations.
Yeah.
So that 15 million, the 5 million is on top of that 15 million.
Probably about half of it, probably about 2.5 million will probably be on top of that.
Yeah, maybe I'm not even sure if it's that much, but yeah, these are standalone events that we haven't been involved in for the most part. So that's a great question. There's maybe a little bit of overlap. But again, look at the year over year. So last year we reported a little over 6 million in economic impact. 2022, almost 16 million. So that's a huge increase.
One of the things I think is really important to understand too is that as we've done this year after year, we've gotten better at knowing what we need to track and better at being able to get the information, that we need from the tournament directors so that we can give it to them to get these numbers. And as we've done it, they've gotten better and better. about reporting that to us and getting us the information we need.
So just to close, I wanted to come back to a couple of the events that we've been involved with. I'm really proud of this one, not just because I'm a golf fan, but because it's one of these events that affects the entire county. So you see the economic impact for the golf championships, $384,000. This is WIAA, so this is high school athletics. This is the state golf championships. You may recall I've reported that we had a 4-year agreement with them that ended this year. 2 of those years went away because of the pandemic. They loved our golf courses so much, they said, we're coming back for 2023 and 2024. And significantly for this group, the 3A classification is actually at Hawks Prairie, and that's the largest one. So a lot of those, most of this is Lacey. The other 2 are Tumwater Valley and then Indian Summer. So this is a great recurring event. And again, it's another one of those events where we're filling other venues, other facilities outside of the regional athletic complex in Rainier Vista. This is one too that we're really proud of. This is a great example of a sports event organizer who's done business at the regional athletic complex with some smaller regional tournaments. She came to us and said, we need some help preparing a bid to the National Association. This is USSSA. This is Fast Pitch National Championships. So this is teams coming from all over the country. They're girls 14U. And look at the economic impact, a little over 12 million. Why is that so high? It's because they're here from Sunday to Sunday. They're here all week, minimum of 4 games.
And this is the one that's going to be happening. This is one that's going to be happening this year at the regional, or a lot of the different complexes in the community, but the regional athletic complex is going to be their host site. We'll be doing the opening ceremonies. And as a big part of that, as to date, she has over 100 teams already registered for this. And they expect at least 50 or more by the time they get done. So not only filling all of our complexes, but some in Olympia and some in Chehalis, but I mean, we are going to be the host site for this. So that's a really big thing. And if we can make this an exceptional experience, it'll be able to just add to the momentum of our complex.
And Sue, would it be safe to say this is the biggest event that we will have hosted at the RAC, or at least the headquarters? Yeah.
This
To date.
this-
So
Expand the rack.
Well, yes, because some of the tournament is being played at Yauger Park, which is okay, but event organizers like to be in one place because it's more staff to try to cover 2 locations. So, but that's the kind of stuff that makes us more attractive when we go to these event organizers and say, hey, come here. We've got all of these fields in one place. We've got this hotel, these restaurants, and we have a local organizing committee. We have all these business community members that want to get behind this event. I also wanted to touch on Washington State Senior Games. I actually joined the board of this organization because I'm so passionate about it. And many of you have met Jack Kiley, who's a wonderful man. And it's mostly because of him that we've had this event here this long. It's about 3 decades here in Thurston County. And Jack has been president of this organization for about 20 of them. It's about $1 million in economic impact every year. It covers several weekends, July and August, and it's an Olympic style event. So track, field, soccer, Pickleball is growing, probably the largest growing, and soccer is also pretty hanging in there pretty well. Softball, volleyball, basketball, all these things. But this is significant because our partnership with this group is now such that we're providing them with market intelligence reporting, where we can geofence their events and we can tell them definitively the age, average age of these participants, where they stayed, where they ate, where they were playing their event. We can determine their average income, and that's going to help us market to them better in the future. So now we're getting away from putting together a flyer and mailing it to people who've already been here to actually being able to ping people digitally who might be interested in either participating or coming to see an event like this. So we're really getting into some serious marketing with this group. So I'm really proud of where this group has come. And this is a really important event for us to have here in Thurston County and to keep, because we could very easily lose it if we don't pay attention to it.
We have dozens and dozens of medalists in Jubilee and throughout the city too.
Yep. So finally, I just want to talk briefly about sports awards. This is our annual meeting for sports. We've done this now for the last 5 years. This was at South Puget Sound Community College in November. We had Beth Knox from the Seattle Sports Commission come talk to us about the Major League Baseball All-Star Game and the FIFA World Cup, some of the things that are affecting us regionally. And we give away awards, not just to athletes, but the sports community and influencers and people who are dedicating a lot of time to making sure sports are successful in Thurston County. So I'm really proud of this event. We don't know yet when it's going to be for this year, probably November, but please keep it on your radar and hope that you can get involved in this. It's a great celebration. With that, I hope I've kept to my time limit, Jen, but I'll be happy to take questions if we have them.
You did. Ed?
So you know about Greg Cuyo Park coming on the horizon. And I know that, disc golf is a pretty popular sport. Do you have any kind of estimate of what kind of an impact that may have in the future for tourism?
I've talked to John quite a few times and honestly, Ed, that's where it starts, is if you have somebody here locally who is just championing the sport. When I talk to some of these national associations, that's what they keep telling me. That's what the cornhole people keep telling me. If you have somebody who can champion the cornhole as a sport, we'll bring our tournament out there. So it's the same thing with disc golf. And I think that we've struggled really with just honestly, the championship level courses. So the more that we can look at that and the more that we can develop that product, just like everything else, baseball, softball fields, we'll be able to make a better case to bring those events here.
When you're talking about the local people trying to emphasize, one of the other things that they've been instrumental in helping us bring in, hoping is they've got a big rugby sevens event. It's a 4-year contract. They're looking to bring thousands in, and we have an individual in town that is way gung ho for rugby, and he's pushed to get this. It's a 4-year deal. They'll bring the sevens, then the 15s, 7s, and 15s. So there's a lot of really exciting different things coming up on the horizon, not just softball, baseball, but a lot of different activities. So
Great.
And we actually do have some preliminary estimates for disc golf, and I'll have to pull those open from a presentation from last year, so I can email those out to the council if you're interested.
Go ahead, Mike.
Any talk about triathlons? We have the Sound, we have lots of parks, plenty of places to bike, trails. Sounds like a perfect place for triathlon.
we did one a couple of years ago. They had them that went out a long lake. And then the pandemic hit and it just has not come back.
So obviously, we just saw the economic impact of the regional athletic complex, and I think we all have known it's it's an amazing generator in our community. Is there any other site in Thurston County that comes anywhere close to having the economic impact that you know of here in Thurston County?
The rack is it. I mean, Lacey really is the sports hub, particularly when it comes to outdoor sports. I think we've got thankfully 3 colleges who have been pretty open to hosting indoor tournaments, but the space isn't large enough to attract much more than a regional competition. So
I guess my question is if the regional athletic complex is such the driver for all of Thurston County, are the other cities giving you funding to help support this as facility?
they do. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there
And
any?
I would add to that, it's a similar equation where they give us funding for the Visitor and Convention Bureau, and then we take a portion of that and dedicate it to sports marketing.
Great. Is there anything else from this council? Then thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sue and Jeff.
So next up on our agenda is a presentation from the Lacey Veteran Services Hub, Keith and Kelly. Thanks, Jeff.
Drive slides. Or would you like to drive?
You're gonna turn that on.
Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come here and give you an update on the Lacey Veteran Service Hub. Some of you have probably seen this briefing not that long ago, so some of this won't be that new. Next slide. Where's the there? Oh, you want a couple slides forward? Yeah. Yeah, we can go to the one with the bubbles on it. So yeah, one more slide. So first off, I want to go across our current services that we did. We currently have 9 programs that we're working on at the hub. We'll start there at the very top. So the housing, that's always been one of our main focuses here in Lacey, is taking care of the housing situation here. So we work with housing the homeless veterans. We also are working with Habitat for Humanity and providing housing for low income veterans. And then we're working with the local banks and veterans in general that are just going to use their VA home loan to purchase homes. So we help them get that dream of owning an American home here. So the next program is our nutrition program. So we are a sponsor or a satellite location for the food bank. So we give food out all the time. We also work with the state in assisting with the applications for the EBT and the TANF program. So those services with that. Here in the last couple of years, we started the food insecurity program. We'll talk about that here a little bit later. Just working in general with members of the community that are having a hard time now purchasing food, making sure that their families are able to eat. The next one is our healthcare program. So on the healthcare program, we assist veterans get into the VA healthcare system. If they can't get into the VA healthcare system, we work to get them into Apple Health or work with the HCA to get them into some kind of healthcare. And then we also we do the mental health side. So we're partnered with the Vet Center there, and we work with all the different organizations in the community that provide mental health services or drug and alcohol rehab to get them into those services. We have our education program, so we work in getting the VA education benefits for the veterans and their families that they're entitled to. We have an employment program. This one here is taken off a lot in the last couple of years. So we have Worksource with us that we work with, and then we've partnered with a couple different agencies that provide training and certifications to help veterans either get into employment or get better employment opportunities than they currently have. Next one is our VA benefits. So we have veteran service officers. We now have all 3 local veteran service organizations are working at the hub. So we have the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and Disabled American Veterans that are down there. And this is actually our biggest program that we have right now. And since the VA has come up with the PACT Act, we've seen a large spike in the number of individuals coming in looking to get their VA benefits that they're entitled to. We have a financial assistance program. So we have Thurston County Veterans Assistance Fund works with that. We also work with an organization called Support the Enlisted Project, which provides financial assistance for active duty members and recently discharged veterans. And then we have a financial management company that we work with that will provide financial management counseling to any of those families that need those services. We have a legal assistance program. So we have an attorney that comes in and provides legal assistance. We also work with the Northwest Justice Project, and the Attorney General's has a Veterans and Military Legal Department. And so we work with them, and they provide also legal assistance, and in some cases, pro bono attorneys that will provide services for them. And then our last one is the transportation. So as you know, we received 2 vans through the intercity transit. And so we provide door-to-door service to any medical appointments within Thurston County and up to the VA hospital up at American Lake, which has been a very popular program. We have one we call, because our goal is always to provide whatever services are necessary. So we have what we call our other program. So that could be anything we assist in doing Social Security applications. We have a computer lab, which you'll hear about a little bit later on in the brief here. Taxes, whatever they would need, we try to make sure that we can provide those resources for them. Next slide. Our hot topics that we're working on right now, of course, the big one is the veteran and active duty suicide. I'm sure most people are familiar with the 22 a day. Right now, our biggest spike we're having is in the 24 to 35 age group for veterans and active duty military. Right now, they're averaging about 38 a day are committing suicide. So we're working with a lot of different agencies to see if we can try to get to them before they get into crisis, to try to save as many as we can. And then our food insecurity program. So we've received several grants, which we'll talk about here in a little bit also, where we're providing gift cards for a lot of these families to make sure they have food. And then our housing shortages. So what we discovered is that there's individuals that were moving into this area for active duty military is because of the lack of housing as they were being having to spend long periods of time in the hotels here. Again, it was costing them about $1,500 more a month than what they were getting in benefits for housing. So we were finding that active duty families were living in their cars or living in tents out in the woods and because they were homeless. So we got some grants and we worked with JBLM to help identify these individuals and make sure that they were maintaining housing while they're waiting to get into some kind of housing resources here. Next one is the Thurston County Lead. So we're part of the Community Action Board and we work with them. We're one of their referral services. So individuals that qualify for the diversion program is we work to make sure that they get into some kind of diversion so we can keep them out of jail and kind of get them back up on their feet again. And then the last one is human trafficking. So we're working with Innovations. We're partnered with them. We're also a referral system for that organization and trying to assist individuals that are in human trafficking here and get them out of that system and get them housed. Next slide.
Before we go on the next slide, since it's a hot topic, I think everyone knows I've been really involved in the military's community council at the National League of Cities. And I'd recently learned that the fastest growing homeless population in the United States are its female veterans. Is there anything that we're specifically doing around trying to find housing for female veterans?
So we work, so the biggest problem we have is that even the shelters, majority of the shelters that we have here are not female friendly. And so there's a kind of a lack of shelters. The ones that we do have are always at 100% capacity. So we do work because we consider them to be very vulnerable out on the streets. And so we work to try to get them into housing as much as we can.
Okay. Just something for us to think about. And the fastest growing homeless population in the United States is female veterans, and so I think we just need to keep that in the front of our mind when we were talking about this issue in particular. That's just unacceptable. So
next slide. So for our community involvement, so we currently we have over 135 partners that we're working with. I believe you guys have a list of those current partners that we have. And they're throughout and then so we pretty much kind of go all throughout the whole community here. Some of our new partners that we have, so some of these are entitled and working with as part of our suicide prevention. So the ETS sponsorship program and the DLL vets they identify individuals that are coming into the Washington area. They can sign up for the program up to a year out. And then we link them up with services here locally to make sure that they have employment and housing and financial stability as they move into the community so they don't run into some of the problems that others are running into. And as we get to our map a little bit later, you'll see a part of the dispersion of the services that we provide are due to these programs here. As part of our employment, we brought in the Goodwill of Olympics and Rainier and a USO transition team, which also brings in those certifications and job training resources. And they're here in the near future. They're going to start actually doing certification trainings out of the hub. So we provide those services here on site locally. I already mentioned support the enlisted project and Innovations. And then we're also working with the South Military Community Program. So we're working with their social working group, primarily with mental health services and their housing and trying to improve the housing resources for military members here in our community as they get here. Donations. So I just want to cover some of the donations, the bigger donations. So in 2022, we actually received 2 donations that were pretty large. One was from Dutch Brothers, and this was actually the Dutch Brothers in Thurston County, Grays Harbor, and Lewis County. They held a fundraiser where they collected donations, and that money was donated to us. So we received $16,000 from them. And Panorama did a Veterans Day event where they were also collecting money to help out the veterans. And so they gave us $2,156. Anonymous donations. So we received small donations all the time. Individuals come in, want to thank us for the service that we provide to the community. And so they'll drop off checks for us. Or we've gotten some bigger ones where they've come in and provided the food cards to help with our food insecurity program to make sure that the families have food. and the Bob Woodruff Foundation. So we received several grants from them. And so we received $25,000 from them in 2022. And then a lot of that was part of our food insecurity program and working with the active duty members to help keep them in hotels and off the streets. Our volunteers, of course, we can't do anything without our volunteers. They run all the day-to-day operations there and our forward-facing members there. So right now we have a 1.5 FTEs. Of course, there's me and then there's Shane. I think most of you guys are familiar with him. Yeah. And then we have 18 dedicated volunteers. And then so in 2022, we had 8,183 volunteer hours that we did. So we had an increase of that in that service also. Next slide. Successes. Okay, let's go one more. Okay, so here's one of the numbers that we've had. So we put up 2021 and 2022. As you can see, all the services that have been increasing. The only one that we went down some was our nutrition assistance, and that's because all the resources that we put into the food insecurity program, so they haven't required to come in and utilize the food bank or sign up onto government programs for that. And as you can see, the total numbers at the bottom were over 17,000 appointment hours in last year. It was a big jump. Next.
Do the volunteers get a stipend or?
No, they do not. No, they come in volunteer their own time, and from the drivers to the vans, the individuals that answer the phones and talk to the customers when they come in.
That number of volunteer hours is almost equivalent to 4 full-time employees.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive. So they're really allowing you to do a lot more for the community. That's great.
Yeah. And we wouldn't be able to do anything without the volunteers. So they do all the hard work. I just sit in the back there. So. So one of the things we want to talk about is, so we decided to do a process improvement project to try to improve the veterans experience and wait times. And so this is actually the team that we put together that actually worked on this project for us. Next slide. Okay. So what you discovered is that wait times are starting to increase. As you can see, as our numbers were increasing. So here we're going to go over some of where these clients are actually coming from. So you can see about 97% of the customers that we serve are coming from Washington State. A little over 75% are actually coming out of Thurston County, and it's kind of broken down from the different areas throughout Thurston County where these individuals are coming from.
So you're getting some people coming up from Oregon, huh?
Yes, we do. Next slide. So this is a breakdown for Thurston County. So all those little blue dots are where our customers are coming from. As you can see, they're pretty much about this whole area, Pierce, Lewis County, and Thurston County. And then the breakdown once again on the right there of the actual numbers from that. Here's the state of Washington. So here's where all of our clients are coming from throughout the state. So you can say we pretty much all of Western Washington is coming here, and then we're getting veterans throughout the other side of the state. They're also getting services from us. And then here's where our customer base is across the United States. So we're dealing with customers pretty much everywhere, including Alaska and Hawaii. What's not shown on here is that we've gone globally now. So we're actually working with military members throughout the world. So we have customers that we're servicing that are in South Korea, Okinawa, Japan, Germany, Italy. So that's part of those programs where, as they're getting ready to transition, they identified they're going to come to Washington to reside. And so we're linking up with them and providing those services to make sure that transitions is good.
Have you heard of other planned hubs being put together anywhere else in the United States?
Yeah, they are starting to catch on some. So we've actually worked. So we worked with Pierce County. So Pierce County is standing up a hub, is actually active. Of course, much smaller. King County actually has 2 hubs now. It's being funded by King County. And WDVA helped stand one up in Spokane. So that's one of our hot topics. We're now is trying to expand. As you see, that our numbers are increasing.
Yeah. So, yeah, so this is, we were the first, right? You know, through just the work that we've done, word's gotten out. Of course, I've worked with several other cities across the United States through the Military Communities Council. You know, there are a couple other, you can, throughout the United States, we're the first, and no one to this degree, no one like this.
Right.
And so it really is amazing where we've come from to where we are at now. And we have been actually recognized as the preferred model. You talk to the, you know, Veterans Affairs, and they're absolutely enamored with what we're doing because no one else can produce what we're doing.
So a little background. So of course, yeah, as you know, the hub opened up in November of 2016. In 2021, we actually brought $3.8 million into the community between our VA benefits and our employment program. So that's money that we gave to military members within this community so they can spend it. So that we're really proud of that. I haven't gotten the numbers yet for 2022, but we know that's going to be much higher than that. We'll talk about this potential economic loss, and this is one of the reasons why we did the project here. So as the numbers were increasing, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So we started out a couple of years ago. We were averaging about 20 customers a day, and then we jumped up to about 60 customers. And in January, we're in end of last year. On some days, we were hopping over 100 individuals that we were working with. About 60 of them were actually coming in person, and about 40% of those were virtual that we were working with. And so, go back one slide. You're pushing me through this really quick.
Pressure's on.
Yeah. Well, I love to talk, so that's no problem. So what we discovered is because we're getting so many people coming into the hub, is that we're at about 10% of the customers were not staying. They would either come in and they would leave because it was waiting too long, or they'd open up the door and see all the people in there, and so they'd walk away. So as you can see, that economic loss that we had there was individuals that left without getting services. And like I said, with about 14% of them, they were standing on site for over 2 hours. We were at, individuals are just waiting way too long in that waiting room to get services. So we figured we had to come up with a way that we can make this process smoother and quicker. And so we did a couple of improvements for that. Next slide. So problems we had is so we had to increase our averaging about 4,000 appointment hours every year is what we've been increasing on. And so the wait times, because of the systems that we were currently using, which worked when we first started the hub, were no longer viable. And so we needed to come up with a new process to kind of make this smoother. And next slide. So we did some analysis. So part of it was just individuals, because the volunteers, we only have so many volunteers that are on. And then from individuals that were coming in, individuals that were calling in and wanting to do virtual appointments, it just became kind of overwhelming on getting them signed in and then processed, and then getting them back to the service providers. And so we went and took a look at how we had the system set up, and then kind of identified what areas that we saw were problem spots, and came up with solutions and how we're going to resolve that problem. So we had 3 plans that we did. So one, we created a virtual in-processing system. So we purchased some computers in there. So we have, so when the clients come in now, they can just go up to a kiosk and sign in and do all the in-processing part there. So that cut down a lot of the wait times on waiting on a individual to come in and actually do that manually. We also came up with a customer tracking system so that we could start scheduling same day appointments. So they could actually call ahead and get scheduled an appointment for that day, so they didn't have to come in and wait to be seen. And then we also purchased some additional computer equipment and printers to make that process to cut down on some of that wait time. On that little graph there, once again, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that away from you. So you see in July, that said July is kind of where we were, and we started those processes in August. And so our goal was we wanted to get down to a 30-minute wait time. And so we had achieved that by the end of August when we instituted those programs, that we saw a drastic increase in wait times. And it's gone down, as you can see, significantly since then. And the last one at the end of February, we're averaging about 2.7 minutes of wait time when somebody walks through the door.
How's the flow of the current location? Do you feel like you need a little more room or?
Well, you can always use more room, but it's, yes, I think just by controlling it. So I think that, so one of the issues we have is, there's only so much capacity that we can do in one location. So I have 16 offices, all 16 of them are filled almost on a daily basis. So our goal is that what we're like to do is, so we're actually right now we're working with Lewis County, trying to set up another hub down in Lewis County. So our goal is to make these services available in their local area, so they're not having to travel, from Vancouver or Bellingham to come down here to get services. And that way, it's, make this a viable long-term option, because eventually, 100 individuals a day coming through the door, it's a lot of people to deal with. So
16 offices full.
Yes.
16.
And what shows you why at the beginning we realized how it was important to get all the services in one place, because what we've seen, as you can tell, is from the get-go, most people have more than one issue that they're coming in for. And so if you make that veteran go to several different locations, likely they're going to do it. And also if they have to, you have to wait a long time, they leave. It's not the economic impact that we've lost. It's the person's well-being that we've lost, because for them to come back, good luck. And so, you have to put this in terms of the well-being of the veterans and their families.
yeah, so on top of the offices we have the classroom there. So a lot of days the classroom's being used. And we're actually planning a lot of activities within the community so we're giving out the veterans an opportunity to get out and mingle in and identify what those services are. Next slide. And I'll pass this off to Kelly.
Thank you, Keith. I really enjoyed being under your leadership for that process improvement. It continues to be a great project, and I appreciate the work that you and Shane Sullivan do. I really enjoy being part of your team.
It'll show you how important the technology side of it is.
So I just wanted to add sort of a postscript to Keith's presentation and just share two pieces of great news for the hub. We recently added a computer lab, and this not only allows access to computers, but it also, if anybody has to wait, they can use that computer lab. You're not stuck just sitting in a lobby. You can actually use one of these computers that we installed late last year. And we want to thank Comcast and the Chehalis Indian Tribe for the contributions that were used for that effort. And we look forward to creating especially the elevator. As you can see, this is the entryway. And so we do have ramps outside, but an elevator would definitely increase accessibility and reduce barriers to the facility. And so also thanking our congressional delegation, Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland and Senators Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell. We look forward to not only putting in the new elevator, but installing new ADA automatic doors, upgrading the fixtures to be automatic and energy saving, doing parking lot improvements, maybe putting in some more spaces that will allow better accessibility, upgrading some of the technology in the facility, and all of the project administration permits and extra bits that go along with that. So that is what we are looking forward to, and I will back this up so that you can see the facilities information.
So I guess the next logical question is, when going back in time, when we wanted to provide some services to our veterans here in Lacey, we had no idea how this was going to happen. But we see where we're at. And now you look at the numbers and you can see that we are serving more veterans outside of Lacey than we are within the city of Lacey. Yet the city of Lacey is footing the bill for this. I do appreciate Thurston County. Thurston County has been with us from day one. They've been a partner from day one. They help us with the rent. But we need to figure out a way that Lacey is not the only funder of this facility, considering we're helping so many. Do we have any ideas on what other avenues we can go out to help get some more funding, to get you some more support, to make sure the hub is operating as efficiently as possible? Because this is not just a city of Lacey, asset. This is an asset for Washington, the United States, and beyond.
So, reaching out to the communities, I was actually asked yesterday if I'd be willing to put together a proposal to give to Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck about using state funding to help open up some other hubs within the state here. And I mentioned the fact that I know that prior to COVID that Denny Heck and Congressman from Tacoma there had put in a bill that to see if we can reactivate that to see about making this so they can open up hubs across the United States. So, other than these companies, like I see other cities kind of stepping up and I'm not sure how they're financially set that they can afford to do that. I know Yelm is looking at some of the organizations that are looking at trying to open up a smaller hub there with our support to help provide services to the individuals there because it's constantly increasing. So.
Well, I think it's something that I think we need to think about. This was a dream that it's become a reality that's now showing that there's a considerably more benefit outside the city of Lacey. And so I think we need to think on number one, making sure the word gets out. Denny's been there from day one, so he understands the value. But for us to give this presentation to the other jurisdictions, I think they should definitely be hearing how many people we're placing into housing. We don't get the credit for that at all. We're actually putting people in housing, and continue to get the word out. And because I think that you're right, Keith, the one thing we'd like to see is more hubs open, so we can take some of the pressure off of us. That would be helpful. Then you're not getting people having to drive from all over Western Washington and all over the, from Portland, so on and so forth. So I'll keep racking my head on that, but I think it's something we should all be thinking about. And when you're out there talk about some of these numbers when you're talking to your constituents and so on and so forth, because this is a really important work that we've done. And thank you, Keith. Thank you, Kelly, and thank you to all the volunteers at the hub. It's truly amazing what they've done. Yeah.
Just a point of emphasis is the VA home loan assistance. I don't think anyone really grasps how awesome that is, because especially with the pandemic, the rising housing costs, Deputy Mayor does mortgages. He can tell you, you lose deals because of minutes, let alone days or weeks. And try and navigate the VA system when you're trying to find, get that benefit. So, I mean, that's less people on the streets because now they have housing and stuff. And for the public that doesn't know, the VA home loan now goes up to $1.2 million. It's amazing. It's benefit. And it's, when you're dealing with cash offers and,
thank you. I know I've tried to keep this to 7 o'clock. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Keith.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Keith,
Okay,
how close do you work with the state
very, very close.
association and VA itself?
So actually, we have VA employees that actually maintain offices at the hub. So yeah, we work with them both on the healthcare side and the benefit side. We also partner with the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs, and a lot of our programs, we work in conjunction with them to try to provide those services.
Oh, at the VA, if you need assistance trying to get a response, sometimes you call there, you don't get voicemail, boxes are full. I have a heck of a time.
Well, you should come down and see me and we'll
Go to the
help
hub.
you get that process there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, with that, we're about ready to adjourn into an executive session, but before we do that, there's only certain things that we can talk about when we go into this executive session. I was just hoping, Dave, can you just give this council a brief overview of what what's going to be happening in this executive session and, for the public to hear as well. And then we'll adjourn to the executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Yes, there's an executive session scheduled now. It's pursuant to Revised Code of Washington, Chapter 42, Section 3110, subsection 1G. What this section allows for is for council to meet in executive session to discuss the qualifications for applicants of public employment. So that's the specific purpose for which council can go into executive session. As soon as has completed discussing the qualifications of applicants for public employment, any further discussion, which may include logistics or scheduling or anything like that, needs to, of course, occur in public, or that can be dealt with the city manager, the interim city manager, tomorrow or something.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we're going to adjourn into an executive work session. I'm going to say it's going to be about an hour. I'm not 100% sure how long this will take. We're just going to be talking about the qualifications of applicants. What I'll then do is, after all that's done, I'll come back in and what we'll do is there'll need to be some logistics that happen after this. And it's my recommendation that this council sort of authorize the committee to help with that logistics on the next steps. So that would be including trying, looking at the schedule of when we would do interviews, when we would do the tours of the city, when we so all that stuff. And so hopefully if it's okay for this council, if you authorize that committee to come up with that work after we're done, I would appreciate that. Do we have some agreement that would be okay? Is there any questions?
Well, just hopefully you can come up with it fairly soon, because right now our calendars have 3 days blocked.
Yeah, so
And
everything
we have a hard
is
time.
going to happen is within those 3 days. It's a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we, nothing's decided yet, but the tentative schedule would be, hopefully the applicants would come in on the Monday. We would do some tours of that day. That Monday evening, we would have a event for the public where you get to meet the applicants. That needs to be probably a big enough facility to handle that. I'm thinking that would need to be the Lacey Community Center. So we'll need to do some logistics. Is that available? So on and so forth. Right, knock on wood. The next day, tentatively, we would do that. We'd interview the applicants, and right now is we're thinking there'll be 3 different interview panels. We can talk a little bit more about that. And then most likely right after interviews, hopefully this council will come together and have a conversation. Out of who we've talked to, is there someone, is there a clear favorite, so on and so forth. And then we can have that conversation there. If we need to come back on the following Wednesday at the latest to do some follow-up stuff, then we have that blocked out as well. But that is sort of the tentative schedule. If we'll discuss it a little bit more with the committee, but that's what we're thinking right now. And with that, it is 7:12. We are going to adjourn to this executive session for about an hour. If it gets a little bit closer, and I'll come out, and if we need more time, I'll come out and say we need more time. But right now, tentatively scheduled for about an hour. I'm going to close this joint work session with Lacey City Council and Parks and Recreation Board and adjourn to this work session or this executive session. It is 8:15 and the city council is back from our executive session. During our executive session, we just talked about qualifications. No decisions were made. As I had stated before we went in, the city council has authorized the selection committee, which is made up of myself, Councilmember Greenstein and Councilmember Vasquez, to come up with the logistics of the next steps of our city manager recruitment process. We'll do that shortly and hopefully have a schedule out for which looks like April 10th, 11th, and possibly 12th. And so with that, we've reached the end of our meeting and call this work session adjourned.